Welcome back to Women in Westminster. Today I'm joined by Baroness Natalie Bennett, a leading environmental advocate and a former leader of the Green Party. She has dedicated her career to championing sustainability and social justice. Since her appointment to the House of Lords in 2019, she's been a powerful voice for green policies and reforms. It's brilliant to have you on the podcast, Natalie.
Lovely to be with you. I'm really looking forward to our discussion.
Well, thank you for giving up your time to do this today. But during your time as leader of the Green Party, the political landscape was different. What do you think has been the Green Party's biggest achievement since then?
Well, if you look back when I was elected as leader of the Green Party in 2012, we had about 9,000 members. And during what was known as the Green Surge in 2015, on the busiest day, we had more than 3,000 people join the Green Party in one day.
Wow.
And we got in that election 1.1 million votes, which was more votes than we got in every previous general election added together. But because of our electoral system, we still only got the one MP, Caroline Lucas, the brilliant MP for Brighton Pavilion. What's been the strength, the growth of the Green Party since then is we've held on to that membership. We've got something like 60,000 members now. But absolutely crucially, we've got 4 MPs. In the last election, we quadrupled our representation in Westminster. But also, and this gets a lot less national political coverage, but we've enormously multiplied our number of councillors around the country. So nearly everybody now has a local Green councillor in England or Wales representing them. There's, last figure I saw, 32 councils in which Greens are part of the administration. We're a Green majority council in Mid-Suffolk District Council. So Greens are now, and this was when I was elected leader in 2012, was one of my aims, was to make the Greens one of the main parties of British politics. And now very clearly, I mean, the Scots also a separate party, but we had 2 ministers for a while in the Scottish government. People now say, where are the Greens? If there's not a Green in the room, they expect a Green to be in the room. So we are now part of the mainstream of British politics, and that really has been the achievement of the last 10 years.
I mean, that really is brilliant, because even though, I mean, yes, 4 MPs is a massive achievement as well, but it's more that there's a member of the Green Party on quite a lot of councils. It's kind of influencing policy across the country, but on a smaller...
Exactly, absolutely right. And I mean, I was just in Durham at the People's Bookshop a couple of nights ago, and we've got one councillor, Green councillor on Durham County Council now, but the county council elections are coming up around the country. And again, we're looking for matching the Westminster figure to at least quadruple our representation there in Durham. We've got 840 something was the last count I saw Green councillors around the country. That figure will go up very significantly. And one of the things I'd say to thinking about your listeners is, have you thought about being a councillor? One of the things is there tends to be a stereotype in terms of councillors that they're older, retired, often men.
Well, that's why we need young women to come into the...
Exactly, and the youngest Green councillor that I know of we've elected was Lily down in Bristol, and she was 18 when she was elected onto Bristol City Council. She'd actually been as a climate striker, she'd actually helped organise Greta Thunberg's visit to Bristol, and so we need people who are getting all sorts of political experience through activism. We need to also transfer that into the mainstream realm of councils of Westminster everywhere around the country.
You've spoken about issues like women's rights and LGBTQ+ rights. Is there a particular moment or experience that really shaped your commitment to these causes?
Well, this is where we're going back a very, very long way, because I became a feminist at age 5.
Right.
Because at age 5, I was told, and this is, people haven't picked up the accent, this was in Australia. At age 5 in Australia, so this would have been about 1971, I was told, because you're a girl, you are not allowed to have a bicycle.
No.
Now, I mean, this came from my very aspirational working class grandmother,
Right.
who thought it was not ladylike to ride a bicycle. And my grandmother had a lot of influence on my parents. And my 5-year-old self went, well, that's not fair. And I did for a while, because I was only 5, plead with my parents to have a baby brother so that I could ride his bicycle. But, I very quickly gave up on that one and started campaigning to say that girls should have the right to do the same thing as boys. And right through my school years, I kept having experiences like that again and again, where people would tell me, no, you can't do that because you're a girl. And even more than that, they would say, you shouldn't want to do that because you're a girl. I wanted to play rugby league, was the sport that everyone celebrated in Sydney at that time. I wanted to play rugby league, and no, you're a girl, of course you can't do that. And I just kept encountering things like that all the way through my childhood. So, from age 5 onwards, I've been a feminist, and that's been the core of my politics ever since.
So is that what influenced you to enter politics? Or was it sort of seeing that other people maybe weren't sort of as engaged in the things you had an interest in? Like what was it that caused you to enter politics?
Well, I mean, in terms of party politics, I joined the Green Party on the 1st of January 2006. And that moment was partly practical because I'd actually, until then, I came to Britain in 1999 and I'd been working nights. And when you work nights, you're just kind of on a different schedule to the rest of the world. So I hadn't joined anything. But it was also, I could see then in 2006 that people thought then things were sailing along. This was before the 2007 and 8 financial crash. People thought things were going swimmingly, but I also knew, having studied agricultural science as my first degree at university, I could see the environmental mess we were in. The social mess we were in was evident. The unfairness of society, where so many people were being left behind by inequality and poverty. So all of those things were what inspired me collectively to join the Green Party on the 1st of January. But there was never a plan. I would never, ever have predicted in a million years that it would end up with me being in the House of Lords. But life's like that.
I mean, a few people I've spoken to have said things like that. They never sort of planned to end up where they are today. It just kind of happened.
Yeah, I mean, my advice always to young people is follow what you're passionate about, follow what you're interested in. Of course, there are some jobs. If you're going to be a brain surgeon or an electrical engineer, there is a very clear career path and a clear, way you need to do it. But for most people, I've got 3 degrees, the agricultural science degree, a humanities degree, and a social science degree. Those were all things I was passionate about and interested about and just followed, and they all feed into what I do today. The one thing I kind of regret is I never did a law degree, because I now spend lots of my time, trying to amend the laws of the land and change government bills coming through. But I've picked most of that up by experience. But very often people will get told, do this and study this and follow this, and because you'll get a good steady job at the end of it. But if you're not passionate about it, that's no way to live your life. And the way the world is changing so fast, there's no guarantee that it might be a good steady job now, but will it be around in 10 years' time anyway? So you're going to be best at what you're passionate about, what you care about. So follow that path has always been my recommendation.
Well, in the House of Lords, you've been vocal about electoral reform. What kind of voting system do you think would better represent the people in the UK?
Well, I very much believe in democracy. I've got a book out called Change Everything. And one of the things I want to change is to make the UK a democracy. And sometimes when I speak to audiences and I say the UK is not a democracy, people look at me quizzically for a second. They kind of put their head on one side and I put their head on the other side. And then I get nods all round. And if you think about the fact that Sir Keir Starmer is now Prime Minister with the backing of about 33% of the people who voted, that's not a democracy. The unelected House of Lords is obviously not a democracy. We also have a situation where so much power and resources are concentrated in Westminster, when local communities, local councils have so little power and resources to make decisions for themselves. So I want a parliament, both houses of parliament, that reflects the views of the people. As the wonderful organisation Make Votes Matter says, parliament, the number of seats should match the number of votes. Parliament should reflect people's views. And the only way to have that is with a proportional system. And you can debate exactly which proportional system, but I don't think that's really the way forward. I think we all have to agree we'll have a proportional system.
And then decide after.
And then debate the details. And, this is New Zealand, which is one of the places in the world that's gone from a Westminster-style first-past-the-post system to a proportional system. That's what they did in New Zealand, was with a two-step process. First of all, they had a referendum and people agreed they wanted proportional versus first past the post. And then they had a referendum discussing the details of what system. So I don't want to get bogged down in the details of what system. Just saying, how can we not have a parliament that reflects the views of the people, which is what we've got now? And, if we're going to talk about democracy, of course, we also have to get the big money out of politics. We have to stop allowing a few people, the oligarchs, the big companies, to buy the politics we get. And that's another related issue as well.
Listeners, join us for part 2 to hear about unexpected aspects of life in the Lords and Natalie's vision for Britain in the next 20 years.